folks are just getting super into drilling down into Claude or Codex or Gemini, and then they've blown their entire budget for the year. My recommendation is to pick just one workflow that already has real friction in it. Are we contributing to generating more quality leads in pipeline and revenue? Because if you can't show that value clearly, it's just going to be very hard to turn any of this early momentum into something that's going to stick for the long term. I'm going to just outline over the next couple of slides what you should do over the next 90 days in order to really get a program going and to start to build muscle around some of this work. So the first 30 days should really be about getting the foundation right, because that's what determines whether this becomes a real operating advantage for you and your marketing team, and not just some side project that somebody's working on. So as you think about the first 30-day window, the goal is not to build a bunch of random or disparate agents. We've seen a lot of that. The goal is actually to get super laser focused. And my recommendation is to pick just one workflow that already has real friction in it, and that can also help one or more people on your marketing team. And the ideas that I shared earlier are a great place to start, but definitely pick something else if you've got a better idea that can get you a quick one. And then define the business goals up front once you've picked out whatever that workflow is. Some things to potentially consider. Are we trying to move faster? Are we trying to increase output? Are we trying to improve alignment? Are we trying to get better visibility into pipeline? Or is it all of the above? Because if you actually don't define the success first, you're just going to end up with a bunch of activity instead of getting actual impact, which is obviously really important. From there, it's important to connect the minimum viable context. So your document, the CRM, your calls, Slack messages, any of the prior campaign data, any of the reporting, get all that into a system so that you can really get solid context. And then clarify the owners, the handoffs, the approvals, and where human in the loop needs to be implemented. And then really only then, just pick 2 or 3 moments in that workflow that you think an agent will be able to smooth out instead of adding more complexity. And if you're able to do that, then that's what I think like a smart first 30 days looks like, because that is realistic with all the other things that we have going on with our day in marketing. Now, once you get into month 2, this is where you're going to want to measure meaningful KPIs, because you've got the workflow defined, you've got some agents now in the wild. And so are we improving cycle times? Are we increasing asset throughput while also maintaining quality? Are we driving adoption across the team? And ultimately, which is probably the most important, are we contributing to generating more quality leads in pipeline and revenue? Because that's how we get more budgets and more people to help us out. And this is also the stage where you should probably consider having like a weekly operating review. And I would recommend establishing a marketing AI tiger team who will be responsible for helping you, move this forward. And in that meeting, talk about what's, breaking and not working. Talk about how to tighten prompts, improving handoffs across all the different stakeholders in your workflow. And just as important, also keep an eye on token usage and overall consumption, so you're not accidentally blowing any budget that you've gotten approvals for while you're scaling usage. And we're seeing that part happening a lot right now, and I'm sure you're hearing a lot of this in the news. Folks are just getting super into drilling down into Claude or Codex or Gemini, and then they've blown their entire budget for the year or the quarter, whatnot, super quickly. And this is actually another, shameless plug for Glean, because this is a spot where Glean can help. Glean does have features that will help you better manage token usage because it is LLM agnostic and does connect with all LLMs. So you want these workflows to be effective, but you also want them to be efficient, sustainable, and help you actually manage your work within the budgets that you've gotten approved. Now we're into month 3. The question's really going to become, did this create value, and is this worth scaling? And so this is really where you want to quantify the impact. What did it do for the KPIs that I and the team are trying to set out to achieve? And is it helping me generate more leads, pipeline, and revenue? Because If you can't show that value clearly, it's just going to be very hard to turn any of this early momentum into something that's going to stick for the long term. This is also the point where you have the opportunity to tighten the workflow into something that is repeatable. And I encourage you to put governance around it, add QA checkpoints, get really, really clear and hone in on your source of truth rules so that you and the team know, what's the data and content that the current workflow should trust. And then just be disciplined about your expansion. Instead of jumping into 10 new workflows, expand into the next 1 or 2 workflows that matter most to you and the team or to marketing leadership or ELT. And then at the end of this 90-day phase, come out with an executive readout that actually makes this business case clear. Here's what we improved, here's what we learned, here's what worked, here's what didn't work so well, and here's what we're going to go next. And if you can do all of this in the next 90 days, then I promise you, you are well on your way to having you and your marketing team becoming more productive with your work with agents.